Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
All right, welcome into another Eye on the Hawks podcast on the road. This is Owen Sebring coming from the inside of my car on the riverfront in Albany, New York, and Mike Howell coming to us from Eye on the Hawks HQ back in Cedar Rapids at Broadcast Park. Thanks for joining us as we recap what we just saw go down about, about 12 hours ago. The game finished, I suppose, when Iowa beat LSU in the Final Four, beat the defending champs, and I should say the Elite Eight. I don't know why I'm already moving into Final Four mode, but they've now clinched their spot in the Final Four and got a big showdown coming with UConn here on Friday night, late Friday night.
Yeah, this is just kind of unprecedented times with back-to-back Final Fours. This program's only been to 3. Well, this is their 3rd. Mm-hmm. So very exciting times. And, last night's game, I think we both were a little nervous heading into it. Fair to say. Yeah. At least for Iowa's chances. But that second quarter, I thought things were going to slip away like they kind of did last year. But yeah, Caitlin Clark just on a different level. And
I didn't really feel safe even until, when there was about 4 minutes left in the game. I was like, okay, I think they got it. We've seen big leads slip away for that team against Ohio State, against Nebraska. So even when they were up, 12, 13 points in the fourth quarter, I'm like, let's not start counting our chickens yet. We went up to the media room and Blake Hornstein said something about like, all right, we're going to Cleveland. I'm like, Blake, shut your mouth until they're up 10 with 1 minute left in the game. I'm not going to be too confident yet. But it was just, again, we said they needed the perfect type of game coming in, and they maybe didn't get quite the same level of perfect game as they had against Colorado, where they had so many scores going into double figures. But Caitlin played about as well as you could ask from her, and they got some good contributions from. Kate played great, Sydney played great, and they got just what they needed.
Addie played great off the bench. The role players. We're already getting it, Owen. Carter is letting us know about our predictions in the comments section. I put him up on the YouTube stream. He's right though. I definitely thought this LSU team, and who knows, I don't think it really impacted her that much other than being out for like 5 to 10 minutes. But Angel Reese leaving with a little ankle sprain, does that change things? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But, I did think that Iowa was going to have a tough time stopping the post play. And in the the end of the first quarter and the second quarter before Angel's injury, like they did, Angel was pretty much doing whatever she wanted in there.
She was torching them.
The Hawkeyes were shooting out of their, shooting out of their minds. So that helped, and they were just playing a style of offense. The pace was so high that it really lended itself to Iowa's favor.
Yeah, Angel was great.
It does feel good to be wrong though, Carter. I'm glad that they lost, or that LSU lost. I'm glad Iowa won.
Yeah, I think the state of Iowa as a whole is glad that LSU lost. That was just such a thing of beauty to see it kind of go down like that. Can't help but enjoy it that if you're an Iowa fan, not just seeing the win, but seeing an LSU lose, seeing Kim Mulkey frustrated, and seeing Angel Reese foul out at the end of the game. It was pretty sweet. I gotta tell you, it felt good. But it was, Angel looked so good in the first quarter. I don't know how much the injury could have affected things. Maybe not. When I was watching the highlights on SportsCenter later, they didn't even mention her injury, and so I don't know. I'm curious. I didn't watch the LSU postgame presser. I didn't know if they asked Angel about that or not, or if she would have mentioned anything about it.
They did. They asked her one of the first questions, and she was like, "I'm not going to make any excuses." She said she's been battling kind of an ankle resurfacing all season, I guess. She's done it before. She said she tripped over a camera, and that's what got it when she went into the I think she made a block on that play or tried to make a block on Caitlin. And it's unfortunate, but she did come back and play. So I don't think it had a major impact, but she was on the bench. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, T. Hink. Kim said she's been dealing with it since that SEC tournament, so not all season, but just the past month or so.
Yeah, but I mean, in the second half, I mean, she definitely, even when she came back into the game, she looked like she was limping for a little bit. But in the second half, I would not have noticed that anything was awry if I hadn't seen her have that injury in the first half. So who knows? But
One thing I was
regardless,
shocked about was, sorry, Owen, was that, I mean, I was telling Mitch last night, if I was LSU, I would just give Angel the ball every time they were down the floor. You know, it's pretty easy when you're Iowa and Caitlin brings the ball most times up. There's, sometimes when Molly would bring it up when she was playing and Sid brings it up, but it's easier to get your best player the ball when they're bringing up the ball, and Angel's a post player. So it's like when you're going to a couple possessions without giving her the ball down low, it's kind of like a wasted possession. I thought there were some times where she was getting frustrated, especially Haley Van Lith didn't have a good game. She was shooting and driving and stuff, and you could see Angel be like, "Give me the damn ball," like most players with her ability are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could have, and I mean, Hannah was getting into foul trouble, and I mean, it seems like if they did, and LSU totally controlled the offensive glass. I mean, if they would have kept feeding her, I don't know if Iowa could have stopped her at any point. But to the same point, I was saying the same thing about Caitlin, where there were times late in the game where I'm like, Caitlin, stop passing it. Like, you are on fire right now, shooting wise. Like, you just got to keep making these shots and keep taking them because you're the one who's on another level right now. Like, I appreciate you wanting to try to give Kate or Addie some looks, but just keep shooting because you're the one who's leading this team to the Final Four right now.
Yeah, and it's part of her game. She's been doing it all year with the passes. Like half of the time, those amazing passes we love and that she makes, that set up assists. They're hard to do, and she's usually dropping dimes. So sometimes they're going to cause turnovers. That's just the high risk, high reward nature of her passing. I'm just trying to see what she ended with. She ended with 12 assists for sure, 5 turnovers. Not a lot, but still, I think she had less in the Colorado game.
Yeah, I think only 2 against Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we it was a fight to the finish, and let's hear from some of the team as they celebrated last night's victory. We got a chance to speak to a handful of players in the locker room. Got to hear from them at the podium, and just some of their initial thoughts after taking down the reigning champs from LSU last night.
Everybody at the beginning of the year kept saying, oh, Iowa lost so much. They lost all this offense and 2 starters, and everybody kept focusing on that, and we kept focusing on what we had. And even when we had an injury with Molly Davis going out of the lineup, Sid just came in there seamlessly, and I'm really just proud of this group. They kept the focus all the time on us, and I'm really I couldn't be more happy for such a great group of young women than this. So
we were just resilient. We never hung our head when things didn't go our way, and that can get you a long way. And I'm just proud of this group to go back to the Final Four, and you enjoy this, and then you get to Cleveland and you start prepping for your next game. We want to win 2 more, and I think we have the power to do that.
It's super special. Obviously, that was our goal all year, and I think a lot of people, might not have believed that we could get it done with losing a couple starters from last year. So it means a lot, and it's super special, and I'm really proud of everyone.
We were focused on us. We weren't focused on LSU leading up to the game, and I think we really stuck together, and our circle was tight, and we didn't let the outside noise get in.
There's a weird little contradictory nature about, like, I don't know, this kind of goes for athletes across the board maybe, because the typical mentality or soundbite is that, we're not paying attention to the outside noise. We're not paying attention to the doubters and all that stuff. But then once they actually like win something, they're like, everybody said we couldn't get here. I'm like, well, you must have been paying some attention to the outside noise if you knew that apparently people were saying that you couldn't do it. But anyway, that's just like, that happens with everybody. That's like when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, they were like, nobody thought we could do this. I'm like, literally everybody thought that you could do this. Anyway, that's all to say that I don't know about you, Mike, but I guess I personally did not hear all of the discussion in the off season or preseason about like, wow, they lost so much and they're not going to do it again this year. There was definitely some question marks. There were some people who doubted their ability to win the Big Ten again or to make it back to the Final Four. But it seems like, I guess I just heard a lot of people saying like, boy, they've got Caitlin Clark. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, yes, no, I want to go back. I think the most egregious one of a team saying no one thought we'd be here is Georgia when they won their second straight national title. It's like, come on, you can't believe that. You guys were the clear favorites all year. But I mean, I think I personally, and I don't know if we talked about it on the pod because we were talking about football when the season started. I thought they were going to take a huge step back because I just thought Sonano was so good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know Hannah's going to be good, but I thought, it was going to take. She's only a sophomore, who knew if she was going to take a step like she has. But that clip from that Big Ten, what's her name? That Big Ten analyst.
Yeah, I forget who that was, but I know what you're talking about.
Her saying they're not even a top 5, and now they're in the Final Four. That's kind of poetic justice a little bit, but you heard it a little bit, and I did think it was fair heading into the season because you never know how it's going to go, and you just can't expect a team to get back to the Final Four. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's not an indictment on Caitlin or the Lisa Bluter. If you're not a blue blood, I think it's fair to not expect them to get back to that level because it's tough. So I think that's why it's so impressive that they actually did it.
Yeah.
They got back to the Final Four. And, I mean, they're probably the second favorites behind South Carolina on the teams left, on teams that can win it all. So,
yeah.
And obviously when you're in the program, it can be used as motivation, They didn't think you were going to be here, blah, 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 It is kind of a funny dichotomy, though, like players saying we didn't listen to outside noise and then cite outside noise as motivation.
Yeah. I know Andrea Carter from ESPN, who really does do a great job, but this was even in the middle of the season that she had a comment about, like, what did she say? I mean, I think she said something to the effect of, like, there are 15 teams that basically what she was saying was that Iowa could be in the Sweet 16. They're one of the top 16 teams, but she was like, I'm not sure if they're one of the top 8 teams, and they're definitely not one of the top 4 teams. Like, Andrea Carter was very skeptical that they could even make the Elite 8, much less the Final Four. And so, but she was on ESPN last night, and she was even saying herself, like, I was dead wrong about this team because their role players have really stepped up in a big way. I mean, they've been able to get the best out of Kate Martin and Sita Falter, and that's what's been the biggest crux of having them succeed in the postseason.
Now, this is some interesting news, and I haven't checked the odds, but T. Hank in the comments, I'll put him up on the screen, says ESPN has UConn as having better odds to win the national title than Iowa.
I guess if that is the case, that's different than what I saw. Maybe the betting odds have changed since last night. I know when I was watching SportsCenter last night, South Carolina was the favorite, the number 1 betting odds favorite, and Iowa was second behind them. But I don't know what's happened.
Iowa had the second best odds, at least when I would look at it, because I was looking to throw a little cheese on them. Wouldn't do it now, but that's interesting, though. I mean, UConn is one of those blue bloods. It's one of those teams that you usually, I guess it has been a few years since they've been to the Final Four, I believe. They didn't make it last year, but they're always good for making it a deep run in the tournament with Geno there.
Yeah, they did make it last year, but that was the first year they hadn't made it in 8 seasons or something like that.
Oh.
I mean, but yeah, so last year was like kind of an anomaly. But
You shot though for that program.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see their last national championship, though. I feel like it has been a few years since they last won a natty, which drought, fire Geno, haven't won a natty in 5 years. But I don't know. Yeah, I told a friend last night, I'm like, I don't know who's going to win the women's natty, but sure as hell ain't going to be NC State. Like, boy,
I wouldn't vote against them the way the men and the women are playing right now.
It's true. They've got some sort of energy they're feeding off from each other. Yeah, men, I'm like, hell, I don't know. That men's team, maybe they will. The women's team, boy, to think that they could get past South Carolina and then get past either Iowa or UConn, it seems like a tall order. But I don't know about them very much, honestly. I was like, as much as I've tried to follow women's basketball pretty well this year, I really don't know hardly the first thing about North Carolina State. I know they traditionally have been a good program, and Kay Yaw was a great legendary coach there, but outside of that, I know very little about that team.
So UConn 11 national titles under Geno. Their last one was in 2016. So that is kind of a long drought. Let me look. Let's do some math. I think that's the longest drought they've ever had. because when they won one in the first in 95, it took them 5 years to get back. They won in 02, 03, 04, 5-year gap, 09, 10, 13. Yeah, it's been a while for that program, so it's not going to be a walk in the park.
It is funny though, just that like this has been such a I don't know, this entire postseason has been kind of not quite a revenge tour, but just like reminiscent of things past for Caitlin Clark and for Iowa, because number one, you had Colorado again in the Sweet 16. Number two, you play LSU again in the Elite Eight. You play Haley Van Lith again in the Elite Eight. And now you play a UConn team that ended Caitlin's season her freshman year in the Sweet 16. Just like there's just a chance at, redemption every single round, it seems like so far. So anyway, it's been a fun postseason, but even though, they got that win over LSU, they kept saying that's still not a rivalry game. I mean, they loved it, but they were just happy to make sure that they got to the Final Four, no matter what it took, if it was LSU, if it was somebody else. And I think they spoke a little bit last night about just this game not necessarily being what they would consider a rivalry quite yet.
Do you think that Angel getting hurt, hobbled, whatever you want to call it, affected not just her, but all of LSU?
Well, we really didn't look at it as a rivalry, honestly. To us, it didn't really matter who was, our opponent for this game. We were really just focused on ourselves. But like to have stars that, LSU has, and to have stars that, like Caitlin on our team, I think that just really grows the game. So in that aspect, I think it's really cool. I'm sure we got some great viewership tonight in this game. I think a lot of people were looking forward to this game.
I told the team, this is not a rivalry. This is a competition. It's a competition against an opponent. It is not a rivalry. I just don't feel like we've played them that many times that you consider it a rivalry. But I mean, I think people were highly interested in this game. And so I think people were excited to see this play, to see this matchup again. So I think that was there, the excitement around the game, but it certainly wasn't one that we feel like is a rivalry. It was just going out to compete. I can tell you, we didn't talk about last year's game at all. We did not talk about it at all. It just wasn't important to us. That was last year, different teams, different scenario. We just kept focusing on this time we get to, play. We get to play today.
You agree, Mike? Not a rivalry?
I think she makes a good point that they don't play enough to be a rivalry,
Yeah.
I see Nebraska, Ohio State, like teams that you play year in and year out.
Yeah.
It was maybe a personal rivalry, even though I think they're friends off the court, Angel and Caitlin. So like maybe you can't even call that. It's just an interesting storyline.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a rivalry?
Honestly, after this year, I feel like, I don't know, like it only would become a rivalry if they do start scheduling each other more often, like maybe in the regular season or something, because it's hard to call it a rivalry if you only see each other like once a decade or something. But it certainly is, an interesting matchup between the two, where like the two have, created kind of some bad blood between the two programs that, Iowa fans hate that LSU beat them in the championship, and LSU fans, I'm sure, hate that Iowa ended their season this year and possibly ended Angel Reese's career, possibly ended Haley Van Lith's career. I think they both are still undecided whether or not they come back. So I don't know. I mean, it's maybe short of being a rivalry, but there is definitely some tension and some history now between the two programs that would make it interesting moving forward.
Yeah, I think Grant Becker is the one I first saw this take about. Not rivalry, but Kim Mulkey ended Iowa's last great run before Caitlin in the tournament. Against Megan Gustafson's last year when they went to the Elite Eight, they lost to Baylor. She was still there. I think they won the Natty that year. Yeah. Could be wrong on that, but maybe that's more of one. I think they in the broadcast they said Lisa was 0-3 against Kim before then, and Kim's a great coach, so makes sense. She's got 4 natties on herself. But yeah, I don't see this as a rivalry unless maybe they play next year. That'd be one heck of a non-con game if they did end up scheduling it. I'd be all in favor of that. Yeah. But who's going to be there left? Like Haley's gone, even though she just got here. So, but Angel may or may not come back. I don't know the status of Anissa Morrow and Flau'jae Johnson. I assume are they seniors? They're gone?
Flau'jae is just a sophomore.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. I hadn't realized that either until I was watching the presser last night. But yeah, she's just a soph. I am not sure, but I may have seen either her or one of the other starters at my hotel as I was like just coming in last night. They and their dad were like walking out of the hotel. I'm like, I did not think I was in a team possible like hotel, but here we are. Mike, do you have any idea when they release like the ratings for these games? Because we haven't even seen like the Sweet 16 ratings come out, have we?
We did. They just came out this morning. And,
okay.
Man, I was gonna bring this tweet up. Let me look for it. Oh yeah, I tweeted about it. The Sweet 16 game with Colorado did a 6.9 million viewers.
Okay.
It's the most watched game outside of the Final Four in women's basketball history.
Which I think was the case with the West Virginia game too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they said that initial numbers for the last night's game will come out later this afternoon.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, this is from Richard Deitch. I think that's how you say his name. Anyways, I'll share the screen right now so you can take a look at it.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
This is when it first reported last night's numbers will be out. Shatters the audience record for the women's term.
Nice ratings though.
Yeah. One might say. Yeah, I can't remember. Do you remember what the West Virginia numbers were? I can't remember how close those were, but I think that was the same deal where it was, breaking a record for any game prior to the Final Four.
I don't. I'm gonna Google it right now. I usually forget numbers like that just because.
I know, me too.
We've seen ratings numbers.
Yeah.
All year, and it's just like, wait, was that for the Ohio State game? Was that for the?
Yeah, it's like it's like the fact, that it was the most.
4.9 million for West Virginia.
So
it was the largest pre-Final Four audience in women's at the time.
Yeah.
What do you expect the numbers for last night? I mean, this Sweet 16 game was Saturday at 2, right? Was that when it tipped off?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Or no, yeah, because the first game's at noon. That's not a good TV window.
Yeah, 2:30, I guess I should say it was, and I think it actually ended up tipping off a little bit closer to 3, but yes.
Because it's Saturday afternoon, a lot of times you want to do stuff, on your weekend, and I would imagine that would it be out of the question if last night's doubled that, like 13 million viewers on a Monday prime time?
I was gonna say 10 million would be like an early guess, but boy, doubling it, that would be wild. Holy crap. I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to see what those end up being. And then I wonder if when Iowa plays UConn now in the Final Four, if that's going to start breaking more records, just because, I mean, as big as last year's South Carolina and LSU games were in the tournament, Iowa UConn, that's a matchup people have been dying to see too. Not just Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers, but kind of if you want to call Iowa I don't know. I guess I don't know what you title them, but UConn is the dynasty. I've called them, and I will continue to believe in them as the greatest dynasty in the history of sports. The UConn women's basketball program, and they're coming up against Iowa, who is the plucky underdog, if you will. I don't know if you can call anybody an underdog when they have Caitlin Clark on the roster, but certainly the blue blood versus non-blue blood.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat said they're actually favored to win, so not an underdog in that sense, but an underdog compared to conventional wisdom and the program history. Yeah. ESPN has Iowa as a 2.5-point favorite.
Okay, and I don't know if we're able to pull up that soundbite from Geno right now, Mike. I know that the other day Geno made a comment about how he thought that Paige Beckers was the best player in the country statistically, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm sure Iowa fans, what? No way. I mean, he's obviously going to say it. He's our coach, like, duh. But last night he he decided he wanted to make sure that he didn't cause any beef with Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, here it is.
Remarkable, and next weekend should be just as much fun as this weekend. Yeah, I hope Caitlin Clark had a personal agenda against LSU. And I know there's nothing personal between me and her, so I don't need to be seeing her drop 50 on us next weekend, you know? So I love her. I think she's the best player. Forget I ever said Paige is the best player in the country. I think she's the best player of all time. I don't know whoever said that I said that Paige is the best player in the country.
Geno's the man. I love Geno.
Yeah, good stuff there. Who can fault him for liking his own player? You know, even if you don't even believe it, you gotta make your player believe it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to say Kim Mulkey's going to say Angel Reese is the best player. You know, Don Staley's going to say Camila Cardoso is the best player. Like, you know, that's just how it goes.
Geno said that a few days ago, like almost that exact thing. He's like, USC wouldn't say Caitlin Clark's USC would have a different best player. Yeah. North Carolina would have a best player. He went through all the teams, and
yeah,
I mean it's true.
Just want to answer a couple questions. T. Hink asked if the team's flying to Cleveland today. They are. I emailed, actually probably pretty soon. I emailed Bailey Turner, their SID, to ask when they're flying out, and he said noonish. So I'd imagine they're going to be getting on the runway here pretty soon. And Carter was saying UConn skip recruiting Clark. I know that came up in the Wright Thompson article about her, that at least Geno did not come to see her play in high school, and that kind of stung for her, that she, you know, really wanted to have UConn come and watch her play, and they never did. I don't know. I forget, and I couldn't say if they made her an offer. It seems like they would have made her an offer, so I don't know what necessarily counts as, you know, recruiting. But yeah,
I wonder if Geno's having a presser on Zoom tonight at 5. I wonder, or 5:30, 1 or 2. I wonder if someone will ask that.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, they're always crafty, and Geno always puts together a good game plan, and there's a reason that he's the best coach in women's college history. So that's going to be a tough one. I mean, every game here on out is going to be hard as hell to win. But this one especially, gosh, it's going to be a tough one to win on Friday.
Yeah, definitely. I for whatever reason we were talking, I always looked at LSU as a tougher matchup. I know UConn has a really good team. They got really good players. Maybe it was just I couldn't get the memory of last year out of my head.
Yeah.
Them just exploding and scoring at will.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's bad news though, because usually when I feel good about Hawkeye athletics, they go on and lose.
Are you glad it's UConn they're playing versus LSU, or versus USC?
I kind of was hoping for USC just because it would have been Juju versus Caitlin.
Yeah.
Even though it's a UConn brand, and I think that fans are going to want to tune in, I still think just those two players, the star factor, would have maybe made it more interesting, even though they have Paige Beckers and a lot of good players too. So I think either one would have been fine, but I was looking for that Juju-Caitlin matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been good. And I'm sure Caitlin, you know, we'll probably talk about this a handful of times the next few days, but I think that Caitlin and Paige are pretty good pals. Like, I think that they're actually close friends, and so it'll be fun having those two on the court together.
Yeah, when they played each other as freshmen they made it the Sweet 16. That was a storyline, and they talked about how they'd known each other for a while and played on, I think, some younger Olympic teams together, some Team USA youth leagues, or youth teams.
Yeah, and Paige is a Midwest gal. She's from the Minneapolis area, so I'd imagine they probably saw each other a lot in AAU. It's kind of a fun matchup with I don't know if anybody here follows Brie LaWork. She's kind of Caitlin's personal photographer.
Yeah.
You can see her work on Twitter and Instagram, and she does great stuff. But she does a lot of freelance stuff. She's a Mason City native, by the way. But
wow.
she used to do a lot of stuff with Paige. She's done some stuff with UConn and them, and so it's kind of a funny matchup for her to be out there getting a chance to, assuming that Bree's there in Cleveland, she's going to get a chance to cover both of the gals that she's had a big eye on for her career.
Yeah, I saw her at the Big Ten tournament, and I saw her content she's pushing out, and I followed her on our Eye on the Hawks account. She's a good follow.
Yeah, she's got good stuff. What's that?
For some inside photos and stuff, because I know they're personal photographer and whatnot. So what did you think last night the game was the turning point?
For me, the turning point, I don't know. I think that the turning point was Caitlin's first 3-pointer in the second half, when she made that when she made a deep three, like in the first 12 seconds, I think, of the third quarter, because again it was tied at halftime, and LSU had. I mean, Iowa made a nice little run at the end of the second quarter. LSU kind of weathered it. They made a shot in the final seconds of the second, so it was tied going into the half, and so it felt like the third quarter could tip. Started knocking in threes right away. It seemed like that's what really tipped the scales in their favor.
Yeah, you know what? You bring a good point. I was gonna say it was a little before then in the second quarter. I'm gonna bring up just a tweet. This is a highlight from the women's basketball account. This play when Iowa made that run in the second quarter, where you thought LSU was gonna run away with it. This three right here, bringing it to one. I thought that was huge, making that run, and then ultimately taking the lead before LSU hit the last shot of the game. So it's a huge punch for punch kind of if you're making a boxing analogy.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice at the time, but somebody tweeted it later, and so I included it in my highlight read that I mean, when Sydney was boxed in the corner there, I was like, Sydney, call a timeout. And she threw it between the legs of Flau J. Johnson to get it over to Kate. Just perfect, crafty
I didn't notice
move.
That's a hard thing to notice on the broadcast. But yeah, you're right. She megged her. That's what us soccer players call that.
Got freaking megged.
Caitlin's a soccer player, former soccer player. Heard she probably would have been, great at that if she chose that.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. But yeah, just again, I mean, as we've come to expect from Sid Falter, just craftiness, grit, just finding a way to make it happen. I mean, that's such a perfect example of what it is that Sid does so well for this team, just finding a way to make it happen.
Yeah, she's been huge. 16 points last night, 5 rebounds, and some really clutch plays just like that. I mean, there were a couple times, too, I was getting frustrated that college refs do this all the time. There were 2 times where in Iowa, went on the floor for a ball, and I swear LSU didn't touch the ball, but they call it a jump ball just because they were near it. Drives me absolutely insane. Yeah. And I think one of them, Sid was calling it for a timeout, and they gave it a jump ball, which gave the possession arrow back to LSU. So
yeah, I do remember that one that I was gosh, they're calling for a timeout. As far as the just to touch one more thing on that play, I mean, a couple things were just having that three come right. I mean, she was just a foot away from Kim Mulkey when she made that shot, which was great. A very conservatively dressed Kim Mulkey by her standards. I mean, just wearing some green, she looked nice. Really.
And you get memes about that? Because I saw someone say hey, Gumbo's here.
I just thought she was kind of embracing the Grinch look even further by going with the green. But I think that was Angel that came in and was trying to block that shot when she made that 3-pointer. Yeah, it was wild. I wanted to put together a highlight reel of Caitlin torching Hailey Van Lith last night because it seems like she just made her look absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Hailey was trying to guard her, and Caitlin just kept pulling up in her face. Caitlin got a block on Hailey. I mean, she just made Hailey look absolutely pedestrian in that game. It was wild how good she looked when she was defending her. I know how badly Caitlin had to have wanted to must resist urge to wave in front of face, but yeah,
that was weird that they had her on that much, and I only got to watch the first part of Kim Mulkey's press conference because then the 9 and 10 was starting last night. What was the thought process with that? I mean, I thought Flau J. Johnson was gonna guard Caitlin for the most part, but Caitlin's got size and speed on Hailey Van Lith, so little weird decision, I thought, to let her guard as much as she did. I know she didn't do it the whole game.
Yeah, I know they put in Pola to guard her as well, and I mean, it seems like she did a little bit better job, but she got in some foul trouble, and that I don't know, they just maybe it was just one of those nights where nobody could guard Caitlin Clark, no matter how good of if you're the best defender in the country, she still is maybe dropping 9 3-pointers on you. So,
what do you think of the reffing? Did you think? I know we didn't talk about Angel Reese falling out. I mean, there was a minute left, so. Don't think it played a huge factor, but I thought the refs were all right, other than those jump ball calls that drive me crazy.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to me like they were calling. haven't seen that much discourse, but when the best player falls out, you got to mention it, I think.
Yeah. There were a couple times where I'm like, boy, that really looked like LSU really mugged Iowa on that play, and there was no call, and it seemed like there was a lot of physicality. But overall, I'd say it was a pretty evenly balanced game. I mean, Iowa ended up shooting more free throws, but that's obviously going to happen when they're up in the fourth quarter and LSU was fouling for the last minute or so. But overall, I feel like it was pretty evenly matched all around. Lisa got frustrated with a couple things early, and I don't know. I especially in the second half, I didn't feel like I noticed that much. I know when I was watching the replay, like on the offensive foul that Angel fouled out on, Ryan Rocco, who was doing the play-by-play, he was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." I thought it looked like a pretty clear offensive foul, but he said he wasn't sure if that was a good call or not.
You said the one on Kate?
Yeah.
Or the one that Kate drew. Yeah, when they showed the replay, she wasn't set, but they did dip the shoulder, so I wonder if that's the reasoning why. But if you're talking about defensive positioning, she was still shifting her feet. I thought if you're looking at that, it wasn't a great call, but you can call offensive fouls for, just being out of control and dipping the shoulder and stuff like that. So maybe there's some credence. One thing that I thought I would have to do to win this game is maybe do a little better on the boards. The rebound advantage was 54-36, so they got out-rebounded by 14.
Wow.
And it didn't really make an impact.
18, right? You said 54-36?
Yes. Bad at math.
Yeah, 18. But anyway.
I minus
wow.
4 at 6. Yeah. And Angel Reese had 20 boards. That's kind of insane.
Jeez.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, she just looks so good. I wonder what she chooses to come out this year. Boy, she's going to be something in the league. Do we have another soundbite that we were going to run, Mike, or did we go through all the sound that we had?
Yeah, when you were done, I was going to tee it up. So this is just Angel Reese talking about their performance a little bit, and then Kim Mulkey on Caitlin Clark. One of my favorite parts of last night is I was giddy to listen to her post-game presser, and outside of the first reporter didn't say their name and say where they're from, and she's like, "Where are you from?" Outside of that, she was kind of gracious. So say what you want. I'll here it is. Here's Angel and Kim Mulkey.
Folded, and just being able to come out tonight and give our all for 40 minutes. We came up short, but we have to keep our heads high.
You got to guard her. Nobody else seems to be able to guard her. We didn't even guard her last year when we beat them. She's just a generational player, and she just makes everybody around her better. Caitlin Clark's not going to beat you by herself. It's what she does to make those other teammates better that helps her score points and them score points to beat you. What did I say to her? I said, "I sure am glad you leaving." I said, "Girl, you something else."
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure a lot of Big Ten coaches probably feeling the same way. Said the same thing in the handshake line at the end of the game. "I'm glad you leaving." I am surprised. I would be curious to look at the box score last night. You said that Angel only finished with 17 points.
17 points, 20 rebounds. Yeah.
How many points did she have in the second half?
I can look that up.
I feel like she had double digits by halftime. She had
10 in the first quarter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Iowa held her.
And it was all in the second half of the first quarter. So after that timeout,
she
scored like 5 points, and really, that was pretty amazing performance in the first quarter. All players. You might have to talk a little bit before I can find this.
Yeah, I mean, for them to hold her to only 7 points over the final 3 quarters is extraordinary. I was thinking she had maybe like 13 at halftime, and so she put her at only 4 in the second half, which does make you wonder why LSU wasn't trying to get her the ball more in the post. I mean, she was doing a lot of good against both Hannah and Addie out there, so you would have thought that worked to their advantage. I don't know.
Like I said, I didn't know why LSU wasn't just kind of like a Zach Edey thing for Purdue. Just, all right, here you go. And even if she misses it, like, okay, if you shoot 40 shots a game, that's how we're going to lose.
Yeah.
That's, I think it's probably not the right move when you have so many talented players, but the way she was playing, I thought, that's the way I would have done it, but I'm not a 4-time national title coach. So,
and it's kind of the same mentality that I feel like Iowa has taken with Caitlin. I mean, they're just like, we're going to let her shoot, and we're going to go ahead and let our team live and die by her shooting. And for the most part, it's worked out pretty well for them so far. Other teams, like LSU could embrace that a lot more. Purdue, like you say, just keep it going and see what happens.
Yeah, so Angel had 13 in the first half, only 3 points in the second quarter. So that's I think that's when she got her injury though, and she sat out for a few minutes, at least 3 or 4 minutes.
It's only 4 in the second half then. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I don't know. I may be in a little bit of a minority on my opinions on Kim Mulkey too. Like, as much as it's great seeing her lose and she can be insufferable, like, I do find her very funny. Like, she makes me laugh in her press conferences. Like, I don't know, she like really has a lot of banter, it seems like, with the reporters, and I think that it's maybe a little bit more good natured than what it seems on the national level when you only see an isolated soundbite here and there. She definitely has her moments when it is not good natured, but a lot of times it's just she's just kind of I don't know, she has a wry wit, and she kind of just does a lot of teasing back and forth kind of.
You sure it's not the accent? Because to me, it's a little bit the accent.
Could be a little bit the accent, but I don't know. I find whenever I watch a Kim Mulkey presser, I'm like, I don't know, she cracks me up.
Yeah. But all around, if you're a Hawkeye fan, I know you mentioned it beforehand, Owen. Last game, okay, it's not going to tarnish the reputation if you don't win another one. That was before this game, so obviously you feel the same way. Do you think, Hawkeye fans should feel the same way if they don't make it back to the national title game? I think Final Four for me, I'm like, hey, that's pretty far. I'm not going to criticize you if you falter against, one of the greatest programs, or the greatest program in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel that way for sure. To be able to say about Caitlin Clark at the end of her career that she led Iowa to 2 straight Final Fours, that's just that alone, that phrase alone is an incredible statement of her career. And, maybe it leads to something greater for Iowa down the road, but it's possible this could stand alone as the greatest years of Iowa history. And Caitlin Clark is the one that helped this team do it. So I think it is. I mean, I'm sure Hawkeye fans, and heck, I want to see them keep moving. I'd love to see them win a natty. But even if UConn is able to pull it off and beat Iowa, I think that this still stands as a pretty incredible statement to what Caitlin Clark has done at the University of Iowa.
Yeah, agreed. And she's going to no doubt win the Naismith on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's even up for debate. I don't even know who the other finalists are. Probably Juju and Paige. And
I was going to say Beckers and Juju. There's one more. I forget who.
Probably Cardosa from North Carolina.
No, I think it's Cameron Brink is actually the other finalist.
Oh, okay. Really? Yeah. Cardosa's not on there, huh? Interesting.
I want to say that's right. I won't swear to that, but I'm pretty sure those are the 4.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, it seems like it's a repeat of last year, to be honest. Although this year it's a kind of expected. You're the 1 seed. You should get it this far. Or so the bracket, the committee says. You're the best team in this region. It never works out that way 4 out of 4. Maybe it used to in the women's game, but
yeah,
it still is impressive to see the teams they've played so far and to get there, to get back to Cleveland. So I'm just pretty pumped. I think they don't have to play with any pressure now that they beat LSU too, and they're in the Final Four. They're not playing with house money because they're still the favorite, but I think there's less pressure on Friday than there was today or last night.
And I mean, just being a guy who I love stats, and so there were a few records that were important for me to see Caitlin break, and she got there. She got the all-time field goals record against Colorado. Last night she set the NCAA record for 3-pointers in her career. That's one that I have a hard time seeing anybody break for a long, long time. And so it was fun to see those happen. And I'm like, okay, she can't really break any other records going forward. maybe some marks for the NCAA tournament, scoring, that kind of thing. But in terms of like really strong, important records, there's not a whole lot left. It would be fun to see if they got to the title game, because right now she has 3,900 career points. And if you remember earlier this year, there was that player from an NAIA school down in St. Louis who, like, she played for 5 years, but finished her career, I think, with 3,961 was her point total. So it'd be kind of fun to see Caitlin like get past that, just because people are like, oh no, this girl's got better stats than Caitlin. So I don't know. That would be kind of a fun one for me to see her.
How many did she have? How many is she away?
So I think that girl finished her career with 39.61. So Caitlin's 62 away from passing her. So she'd need 2 games to get to that.
Okay. Grace Beyer.
Yeah, Grace Beyer.
That's the name.
Yeah. And if she got past Grace, I mean, it's not possible, but the all-time women's career scoring record was by Marion Walker Samuel, I think was her name, who played for not even NAI, but like before there was an NCAA. She essentially played at what would equate to a D2 school in South Carolina, and she also had half a year at a JUCO, and so her total for her career is like a little over 4,000. So Caitlin wouldn't really have a realistic chance of beating that, but it's fun to dream about, like, boy, what if Caitlin went off for 50 in the next 2 games and got to 4,000 career points? That'd be a fun little round number to finish on.
Sorry, this article I read about Grace Beyer says she's played 5 years there, and at the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy in St. Louis.
That's correct.
Who knew that was a college?
I think they had a college name change recently because it was something else, and I'm like, this is the name you chose? I'm like, whenever I hear about a school like that, I'm like, you have sports there? Like, that feels like, I don't know, just one of these, a college that you go to get like a CNA degree or something. And then that's it. But anyway, so yeah. But it would be fun to see Caitlin get a chance to maybe pass a couple more people on that career list. For anybody watching the live stream or listening to the podcast, somebody that she did pass that was kind of important in the scoring marks was last night. Caitlin surpassed Deb Rimerdy's career total. She had, I think, 38.55, or it might have been a little bit more than that. Anyway, so Deb Rimerdy is important because she's from Northwest Iowa. She graduated from Rock Valley. For a long time, she was the high school state of Iowa's career leading scorer. And Deb Rimerdy originally came to the University of Iowa to play for Lisa Bluter. This would have been early in her career. This was 2002, maybe. And Deb only spent, a few months on campus before deciding to transfer back closer to home to play for Northwestern College in Orange City, where she broke, just all the NAIA scoring records. And she set the record for most consecutive free throws. They had her on Good Morning America one time, just like to see how many free throws in a row she could make. So anyway, for Caitlin to surpass her career total was a fun one for me to see last night.
Yeah, that's cool. All those records that she sets, it's just amazing. And I know you do a good job at tracking them. At some point, like after Pete Maravich is like, okay, I'm gonna stop thinking about them. But then they bring him up on the broadcast, the 3.1, and I forget what other one did she break other than the total 3-point. I think she broke a tournament record last night with the amount of assists in her career.
Yeah, she broke 2 tournament records last night. One was 3-pointers in a tournament career. The other was assists in a tournament career.
All right. Very impressive stuff. Owen, any final thoughts before we wrap up on this Final Four podcast?
Not much. I'd like to see if somebody can track down the NCAA tournament career scoring record. I was trying to look that up last night and couldn't quite find that one, but that'd be one to at least like keep our eye on for the next couple of games, or 1 or 2 games. I would imagine it's somebody from UConn, Bree Stewart or Maya Moore, or somebody would have that one. But I'd be curious to track how close, because I think I saw in the email that right now she's 5th all time in NCAA tournament career scoring, which again is remarkable considering that she lost in the Sweet 16 as a freshman and second round as a sophomore. For her to still be able to put up those kind of totals is pretty remarkable. But outside of that,
in a single tournament,
career tournament,
career. Oh, so her points in the tournament throughout her 4 years.
Correct. Yes, those were the records that she broke, like career tournament records. Yeah, those records are kind of hard to track.
Yeah.
regardless,
Someone finding is like the game and the single tournament and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that is tough.
Anyway, but we'll try to do some research on that. But I think that's all I've got. I'm going to be heading over to Cleveland beginning tonight / tomorrow, and hopefully make it in time for the Naismith Trophy ceremony, and then onward and upward. And we've got a Final Four to cover on Friday night.
Yeah, it should be fun news-wise. I know the tip-off is a little late, so hopefully we can look out on Iowa's News Now, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be posting some content there. And last night we got a lot of good feedback about streaming the post-game pressers. People are enjoying that. I'm glad because, you don't get that kind of access to the players as much. And when we bring it on TV, we can only cut it down to a bite-sized portion. So it's like we can't play 3 minutes of Caitlin talking. It just would eat up our newscast. That's the kind of thing that people sometimes don't know behind the scenes. So I'm glad we're doing that.
Yeah.
It looks good. We're getting some good feedback, so that's great. And we'll have a lot more on Friday, hopefully Sunday.
Yes, hopefully Sunday. Yeah, Friday's annoyingly kind of a late game, but we'll at least be in the arena and have a lot of coverage on throughout the weekend from the game or games that we might have ahead.
Hopefully the Wi-Fi is better in Cleveland than it was in Albany.
Boy, there is some the media as a whole is really tearing Albany to shreds right now. I mean, it just has been a really not great work week for the entire media. Even the ESPN people are like, they never need to come back here. I mean, it's just
the debacle in Portland with the three-point line was something I've never seen. It sounds like a skit out of a, comedy show.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll hope for better luck at the Final Four with media relations and with 3-point line measuring.
Yep. And one thing we should note, before this podcast, Lisa Bluter had a press conference, and I don't know if you hopped on that, Owen, or not, but she did say she thinks last year when they went to the Final Four, they were too out there or too much out in the media. So don't expect to talk to Caitlin before the game, apparently, or maybe just at those locker room things that they have. They said this year they might be a little tight-lipped and be selective with who they at least give their time, and they're going to focus more on the game, which is probably a net positive for Iowa if you can kind of tunnel vision that, the outside noise and stuff.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, hopefully at least we can talk to her after the Naismith Trophy, but outside of that, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that content, but got to think about the needs of the team. As much as we love doing the stories, it's less about the media and more about the players themselves this week. So got to take into consideration what's good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks again for joining us on Eye on the Hawks. We've got loads of stuff that you can follow us on throughout the week. Our website, we're trying to pump out web stories as much as we can. You can follow us on the Iowa's News Now YouTube page. We've got the Eye on the Hawks Twitter, and we've got the Facebook page. Follow that stuff. YouTube page, of course, be following that. And Mike and I will keep trying to do some podcasts remotely as the Hawkeyes go throughout the tournament. So we appreciate you joining us for Mike and myself. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again hopefully later this week.